People are trading in their smartphones for dumb phones, hoping to reclaim their time from the grip of social media and technology. So why are some young people turning their backs on connectivity? And is there joy to be rediscovered beyond our phones? I'm Myriam, Francois, and this is The Stream.
Why use a flip phone when I go out and not my regular phone?
In the last week alone, I've wasted over 56 hours of my life to a social media addiction, but I don't know how to stop.
Short form videos like this one are like an addiction. They catch your attention.
And now you have teenagers who were born into the phone world who say, I want nothing to do with this. Give me my flip phone.
Millennials and Gen Zs are using these phones to reduce their screen time, to basically go on a digital detox.
I bring it with me when I'm out, and it's definitely improved my social life.
From color to black and white, because that way it's just not gonna hit the same. You're not gonna get the same dopamine hit, and you're just gonna not wanna mindlessly scroll.
You deleted all socials to focus on yourself.
The average person will spend about 5 years of their life on their phone. I myself spend around 6 hours a day, which is around average for Gen Z and Millennials. Not proud of it, but you know. So are we addicted to our devices? And is it a problem? Joining us today to discuss this are Briones, an advocate for digital minimalism and offline living. Shayonne DasGupta, a writer experimenting with reducing her screen time. And Sophia Smith-Galler, a digital journalist and author. Welcome to you all. Thank you so much for being here. Shayonne, can I start with you? You turned your smartphone into a dumb phone. How has that changed your relationship to your phone?
It has changed the relationship for better, because when I realized that how addicted I was, that it finally dawned on me that the device was owning me and it was not the other way around. So in an attempt to preserve my mental health and sanity, I decided to use my smartphone as a dumb phone when I work and when I go to sleep, because that's the major chunk of my day.
And Jose, you've created a Reddit account about dumb phones. You have made a more radical shift, haven't you? And that has over 50,000 users. Do you think we're starting to see a shift in society's relationship with technology?
I definitely think so. You know, I moderate the subreddit Dumb Phones, which is also found online to a degree, but it's a little bit of a different experience because people come here to find what works best for them, and then they leave to live their lives. And I feel like that's the movement that we're seeing nowadays, which is I want to find information, I want to make it practical for my life, and after that, I'm just going to go live my life, which I think it's a better, you know, ethos for our time.
Sophia, hundreds of families are suing some of the world's biggest tech companies for what they claim is knowingly exposing children to harmful products. They claim that the social media platforms, for example, are harmful by design. What are your thoughts on that?
In the tech design space, there are lots of people, and there have been for some time, trying to persuade social media platforms to consider alternatives to the current features that they have. You don't need to be a child or have a child to think some of these features could be a lot better for us. I'm an adult, and I think that plenty of elements of algorithmic platforms, especially explore feeds and how we are served content, could be changed for the better. That being said, this is also part of a wider trend. Dumb phones are part of a wider interest in returning to analog. That's powered not only by tech design not being ideal for us, that's also powered by concerns around data privacy, for example. It's a lot of worries that we have around our social media use, and it's emerging now in this trend of returning to analog.
So is tech serving you, or are you serving the tech? For many of us, that's the defining question in our relationship with our phones. Check this out.
I'm 24. and I've had social media for 15 years and a smartphone in my pocket every day for a decade. For people a bit older, smartphones and social media were an addition to their already developed life. But for many people my age, we've not known a single day in our adult life without them. And because of that, I unknowingly developed a social media addiction. And that endless access to entertainment meant I never really learned how to be slow or patient. I've tried all the screen time things, leaving my phone at home, deleting all my social media accounts permanently. None work because I'm really bad at moderating, and the smartphone always ends up back in my pocket for some reason. But I actually quite enjoy testing my relationship with tech, so that it serves me, not the other way around. And 3 months ago, I started using this, just to see if I could. And I can, and it's great. And it's hugely improved my relationship with the online world because it doesn't demand anything of me. It's a passive object. I don't hate smartphones. I just feel too immature to own one right now because I got one too young and I never learnt balance with it. I might go back to a smartphone one day, but if I do, it'll be with much clearer intention.
Shayonne, research conducted in recent years suggests that excessive technology use negatively impacts mental health and development, particularly around young people like digital natives we've just heard from. Do you think it's particularly tricky for younger people? And what were some of the struggles that you yourself faced?
I don't think that the struggle is only for the younger generation, because there are so many members of my own family who discovered smartphones well into their 40s and 50s, and they suddenly became so addicted that now they have all become perennial doom scrollers and they are never living in the moment. If anything, I think the younger generation, even though they are born into the technology, they have a better chance of regulating their consumption because of the awareness, and also because they are very, very concerned about their boundaries and self-care. So I have a feeling, I'm a millennial, so I think that the Gen Z will definitely make digital detox an integral part of their life. The challenges that I faced was just initially making peace with suddenly the device that was giving me everything, all the dopamine, becoming just a passive object. But I slowly realized how badly I was owned by the device, and it felt good to take the power back.
I can imagine. Jose, I love the idea of it, but also it does slightly terrify me. What has improved for you since you shifted to a dumb phone? And let's be honest, is it actually possible to live without one these days?
I think it's possible to live without a smartphone for sure. And what a lot of people find out is that it's about your lifestyle, right? You need to orient your lifestyle in such a way that it allows you to have these devices or have less interaction online or have less dependency of these devices for yourself or for the time being. What I personally do and what I advocate everybody to do is to find what works best for them. So if your job requires a specific app, two-factor authentication, Teams, Slack, whatever it is, use your smartphone during your work hours and then switch to a dumb phone afterwards so that you have something that actually is designed to respect your time and attention. And I think that that's what we have to think about. It's not a device problem, it's a lifestyle problem. And a lot of the reasons why newer or more recent generations, Gen Z or Gen Alpha, are having difficulty with this is because their lifestyle has always been online. So going to an offline lifestyle feels jarring. So they have to try, they have to practice, and they have to test different things. For me, the main benefits have always been, mental clarity and just having that demarcation that during a certain period of time, I have these tools, and a different period of time in the evenings or in the weekends, I don't have them at all, and I live fine without them. It's just a slower lifestyle that I need to adopt.
Well, and for some of us, it will obviously be a problem of self-control, myself included. Sophia, we often hear this term addiction bandied about concerning our relationship to our phones. I regularly say I'm addicted to my phone. Are we really addicted to our phones, or is this another moral panic term?
I've done a lot of reporting in the health space, and whenever I've spoken to public health experts, they always really caveat and caution against using the word addiction. And this goes for loads of other things, not only social media addiction, as you might hear about it, that automatically often stigmatizes whatever the person is going through. It can even make a physician less likely to think that that person is treatable in other spaces where the word addiction is used. So For me, I don't use that phrase. I'd prefer to use something like problematic use or a problematic relationship with a smartphone. In this conversation, you often hear about screen time and like, oh, there's a perfect amount of screen time. That means you won't get addicted or you won't start problematically using a phone. And the reality is, life isn't as simple as that. It's more nuanced. 4 hours of screen time for one individual could actually give them profound benefits, especially depending on how they're using their phone. Someone else, that same 4 hours may mean they're not eating, they're not sleeping properly, or they're not seeing or talking to somebody that they should be. You know, that person's use of their smartphone is more problematic than the person who that smartphone is bringing great benefit. So we have to be really careful when we use terms like this, when we're talking about dumb phones and smartphones.
Well, when we use our phones, we are literally getting dopamine hits, a feel-good drug that hooks us in and ensures we stay there scrolling for hours. Pete Judo is a behavioural scientist. Here he explains how the tech is supercharging our systems.
The effect of dopamine is a lot stronger when the reward is unpredictable. So every time you swipe on TikTok, because it has this unpredictability, your brain can never adapt to it. Your brain can never consistently predict how much dopamine is going to be released. And so that actually makes the habit a lot stronger and a lot stickier. And so what you end up with are people who are addicted to these platforms. The thing about technology is that technology evolves quickly, whereas evolution works very slowly, right? Humans evolve very slowly. So the biological mechanisms that we have in our brain were not designed to handle this level of dopamine, right? So the reason why social media releases dopamine is because we have these built-in things that were key to our survival back when we were early humans, right? The need for social connection, the need for forming friends and bonds with other human beings. Those were things that were beneficial to our survival as early humans, right? Collaboration, cooperation, that's how we thrived as a species. But now that same mechanism that was very important for us in the early days of our survival is now being hijacked through technology, through artificially overloading these systems with super amounts of social approval through things like likes and views, etc., right, on social media.
Jose, is this just an evolution problem? Do we just need to evolve more astute brains to deal with our contemporary contexts?
I think part of it is true what they're saying. You know, we do have a dependency that we have not learned how to deal with. And I like to agree with the previous point made, which is screen time is not the basis. Like, you know, there's different things that you're doing with your screens as you are interacting with them. So it's not all bad or all good. It's just somewhere in the middle, and you have to define whether it is problematic for you or not, whether you have that level of dependency. I think that there are some studies that are showing right now, and especially there was a book that just came out here in 2024 called The Anxious Generation that truly shows that these issues are compounding. And because they're compounding, we have to be careful, and we have to maybe take a little bit of a step back and re-engage with technology, learn when it's useful, learn when it's not, and adapt to it. Now, we have been maybe guilty of adopting technology too quickly and saying and praising all of the benefits without evaluating all of its drawbacks. So I think we need to kind of go back and forth and run more experiments in our lives to see what is actually useful and what is actually contributing to our quality of life, instead of just adopting the technology just because it's the nice and new thing.
Well, Shayonne, on the subject of anxiety in this anxious generation, as someone who is on the autism spectrum and has ADHD, do the algorithms pose a specific challenge for you?
Definitely. As much as I am grateful to social media for helping me understand my neurodivergence, my autism, my ADHD, I would like to say that the relationship between algorithms and me is enabling but overwhelming. That's what I read in a research paper. Because at times I just feel that it tries to control everything that I will see, how much I should see, when should I see it. And that's why as an autistic person, it's very important for me to take the control back, because whenever there is any demand or expectation placed on me, I have a tendency to just run in the opposite direction. So that's why I've now made it a point that I will engage with social media algorithms more mindfully, and I will do it in a way that serves me and suits my lifestyle. So I use hide, mute, block, unfollow very liberally to ensure that whatever comes up on my feed are things that I actually want to see. And because I also have ADHD, I had developed a tendency of depending on my device for dopamine all the time. So even though I may not be clinically addicted to my smartphone, but I was over consuming it and I was abusing it borderline. And that's why it's very important for me to make that distinction, because I could see a vast improvement in my mental health as soon as I made the switch.
Well, Shayonne, I think a lot of people would relate to exactly that. And I'm just wondering, Sophia, about this idea that we can sort of regulate ourselves. You know, we've had industry veterans, including former employees from Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, and Facebook, speaking out in recent years about how the company incentivizes employees to design features that increase the time spent on their products. So, you know, is it tech serving us, or are we serving the tech out here?
Remember, we are how tech makes money. We are, when they get millions of us downloading their app, they make money of us through our data and through advertisers being able to serve so many of us. So, of course, they are going to keep introducing features that are going to encourage us to spend more and more time consuming content on those apps. That is not going to change. The only thing that is going to change that is accountability and even regulation to encourage platforms to think of our health and well-being before their profit.
Well, on that subject, we all know some of the smartest people around are invested in keeping our eyeballs on our phones. But is it possible for us to take back control as individuals, or might this need corporate or even governmental reform?
Features like screen time limit can be a useful tool for people who want to cut back on their phone use. These companies do have interest in keeping people engaged, so it's important for consumers to be aware of that and not just rely on tech companies to solve the problem for them. Ultimately, it's up to each individual to take responsibility for their own digital habits. At the same time, I think this shift is a concern for the industry because it challenges the traditional business models. If people start using their devices less, this could massively impact revenue streams. However, I also think this presents an opportunity for the industry to evolve and create products that are more aligned with users' values and needs.
Shayonne, you talked about using the sort of individual responsibility route. I mean, how effective has that been for you? You know, we hear about all these strategies, turning your phone grey, you know, deleting certain apps, you know, putting fines on yourself. I mean, how have you done it, and does it work?
Initially, I tried to do that. I uninstalled apps, or I tried to self-regulate, but willpower and motivation are not my strongest suits. So I decided to download an app that will put my phone on a scheduled detox during my work hours and when I go to sleep. So during these windows, my smartphone becomes an analog phone. It only has the most essential features that I may need, like text, call, some payment getaways and all. And apart from that, there's nothing else that I can access. I am a writer. I work from home and I have internet access on my laptop. So this works for me because I'm not dependent on my phone as much. And with the laptop, I can create when I'm getting up, the internet leaves me. I'm not with the internet at all times. To make sure that this process works, this particular app that I use has a penalty that you can set for yourself. That if you were to break the detox, you have to pay X amount of money to get out of it. I have made that amount so high that I do not feel tempted because I know that it will be a huge dent in my pocket. And I finally agreed on this model only because simply blocking or uninstalling apps were not working for me. I have found myself going back and installing everything that I just uninstalled.
Well, Jose, some people have compared smartphones and social media apps to junk food and tobacco, suggesting that lawmakers should regulate the design of these products to protect our health. What's the word on the Reddit community on that one?
Yeah, I think there is a big push towards more regulation from certain parts of the community. And there is a conversation that needs to be had in regards to that. I mean, when you compare to like for example, here I have a flip phone. This is one of the devices I use. And this is not designed to keep your attention and time 24/7. However, you know, I do have another thing laying around here. This one is, right? Its design is big, it's beautiful, you're able to get all the apps and all the content that you need. So yeah, I think regulation is definitely part of the conversation, but we cannot just wait until that happens. I think we do have to take some personal ownership and try to do what works best for us. And this is where I come back to my original point that it may not be a device problem. It's a lifestyle problem. Are you letting all of these things, all of these technologies integrate into your lifestyle? Or do you want to live a lifestyle that has maybe just a little bit more friction, but it does have way more benefits? So I think the regulation conversation is important. And we do need to talk about how to design products that do not exploit our human vulnerabilities. But until that happens, we do have to take some ownership and we do have to do what's best for us with the tools that are available right now. And it doesn't have to be a dumb phone, by the way.
Yes, I hear that. Well, Sophia, despite some counterclaims, the correlation between phone use and unwellness has stayed quite strong, with arguably, as we mentioned, you know, an epidemic of anxiety and distraction among young people. Do you think that tech companies are finally heeding the concerns of the younger generation?
No, I don't think it's going to be the younger generation that persuades tech platforms to change. The power that needs to change tech platforms, or rather who young people could be a little more successful persuading, is probably governments. It's probably an element of regulation. And it's something that can really sort of hold them to the fire. I'm thinking of fines. Fines are proving to be quite effective in other areas of regulation when it comes to safety and protection with platforms. So I think with this, you have to go to the top. They're not really going to care when we make. Yeah, I'm a content creator myself. I don't think someone, you know, a big boardroom desk meeting at a social media platform is going to watch my video and be persuaded, annoyingly. But certainly, if we can convince policymakers and people with real power to listen to us, then they can tell the social media platforms off.
And is part of that, Sophia, us withdrawing our consent through less usage? I mean, is there a way to negotiate with these platforms through the form of power that we have, which is surely our usage, isn't it?
I am cynical that enough people would do that for it to have an effect. I would be happy to be persuaded otherwise, but I am not convinced that enough people would take part in that. And that is because social media around the world, people are dependent on it for their livelihoods, their businesses. They're dependent on it for contact with other people. Social media use and smartphone use can be the difference between me making money one day. It could be the difference between a family, someone being able to feed their family. So to suddenly expect everyone to stop using something for a day is not, I think, realistic.
Well, Shayonne, I want to ask you about the benefits now that you started to experience through this reduction of your time on your phone. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm sleeping well. I'm waking up with a lot less anxiety, because I used to be one of those people who would scroll on my phone the last thing before I went to bed and first thing in the morning. So now, with all of that taken care of on its own, I am less anxious. I also find myself a lot more creative because of the kind of work that I do. I was actually losing touch. I always felt that I just didn't have the words. I had too much brain fog on all days. But now, by converting my smartphone into a dumb phone, I have seen some changes. And these changes are definitely for the better. And I think I'm overall a more peaceful and happier person because I'm engaging with everything on my own terms, and I'm not engaging just because I'm supposed to engage. So out of sight is out of mind, and therefore it's a more peaceful existence for me overall.
Well, on that note, thank you to our guests, Jose, Shayonne and Sophia. And thank you all for watching. Did you enjoy the show? If you have a conversation or a topic that you would like to flag for us, this is also your show, so we want to hear from you. Use the hashtag or the handle AJStream and we'll investigate. Take care, and I'll see you soon.